Welcome to Amplify, a podcast series by the Association for Accounting Marketing. I'm Katie Tolin of CPA Growth Guides, your host for today's session. Joining me is Nick Norton. Nick is a partner with Peterson Sullivan in Seattle, where he leads the firm's advisory practice. This includes those technology-rich areas of outsourced accounting, as well as IT risk services. Welcome, Nick.
Hi, Katie. Thank you very much for the opportunity. This is a blast.
Well, today we're going to talk about something I know you are very passionate about, and that's how CPA firms can plan to survive. You know, as all of the technology transformations are happening that are impacting traditional tax and audit services, you know, what do we need to do as an industry? And I know you built out advisory services at Peterson Sullivan to help them in this area. So I want to talk about, you know, what this meant to you and to your firm as we go through. So I really want to start with a question you've probably answered dozens of times already. And, you know, that is, why does a CPA firm today need advisory services? What does this mean to the survival of that potential firm?
Yeah, good question. I think it's really pretty high level in the fact that the world is changing. And with that, the wants, needs of the accounting CPA industry is changing. So our clients' needs are changing fast, whether they know it or not. Technology and globalization is really, for all compliance-related activities, decreasing the cost of those activities or the price of those activities. So our fees are going down. Our cost of our primary cost of people is not going down. And so that's two tough things going in the opposite direction. Plus the perceived value of compliance activities are going down. Everything else evolves in this world. And so the key piece really, why do our firms need this, is it's really making sure that now with technology changing, with globalization, with needs changing, it's how do we maintain relevancy and valuable to our clients. And so it's not necessarily the advisory word has been used to capture all services outside of tax or audit compliance. And we have this conversation a lot with some staff that we have some staff that come on really jazzed up about the concept of consulting or advisory. And it's always a great discussion with them to remind them that advisory really comes from this trusted advisor concept. And it's not the services that you provide as much as it is how you provide those services. And to be that trusted advisor to a company, to a client, that relies on a lot more than just rolling out a new service, but it's developing the relationships with those people, long-term, deep relationships, so they do come to you with questions and you're able to identify opportunities beyond compliance to help them in.
So you threw out words like trusted advisor that are ingrained in our industry, and you know, you are not a CPA. I know you have some accounting degree and a strong technology background. How did you come to be in providing these type of services within a CPA environment?
Absolutely. So my journey started, I joined a regional firm based out of Portland, Maine, right out of school, and was very fortunate that the timing of my joining of that firm coincided with a gentleman joining that firm who had a background in cybersecurity, information security related practices. And he had joined that firm to really ramp up in IT risk practice at the firm. And we hit it off quite well, and so I actually ended up joining that team right out of school. And really based on fortune and good timing, the gentleman who was leading that practice really understood the soft skills side of the business, and relationships and deep relationships were always very important to me. And so coming right out of school and understanding immediately that yes, the services that we offer are extremely important, but how we offer those services and the relationships that we build with our clients through delivery of those services is really even more important than the service itself. And so having that ingrained from the start was a tremendous help. was fortunate to be able to really grow that practice alongside alongside the leader, and learned a ton through that process very fast. And when our firm really wanted to get into more other consulting related services, I had the opportunity to kind of be at the forefront and lead that charge for them, with understanding that it was all based on further cultivating our current relationships with clients and building value upon that for new clients.
So it seems like you might have been lucky and you ended up with two firms perhaps that were very supportive of these types of services, but other people might not be as lucky as you, and they had to work or they still are working to try to get their firms to understand this. How did you accomplish it? Or maybe you have a tip for somebody who may not be in a firm with the culture that yours is, to actually get them to implement this strategy.
I'll tell you up front, they're not my ideas. A lot of listening, a ton of collaboration. There are amazing folks in our industry who are really helping to pave the way in understanding the changes needed. And so to this day, I spend a ton of time listening to those folks, collaborating with those folks, really seeing what's working at other firms, what's not working at other firms. And our industry, fortunately, is very collaborative. And so there's not one answer. No one knows all the answers. It's really taking day by day what we do know, capitalizing and implementing on that, learning from it, and then going from there.
The one thing that I think is most intriguing, especially on the IT risk service side, is, I know you've built a team around you, and I'm assuming they're probably people like you, not necessarily your traditional tax, accounting, audit, CPA. Am I right? Like, what kind of background do they have? And then if they're not a CPA, there's always that mindset, like, well, we got to be able to pull them in on a tax or an audit. How do you address that? How do you get the firm to understand they're investing in people that, can't maybe cross-serve on other service offerings?
Communication. So, right from the start, explaining why we're taking the approach that we're taking. Really from the start of my career, I had some great lessons learned that to successfully ramp up and build a practice that's foundationally strong, you really need dedicated employees. And so it's really difficult to share employees across service lines indefinitely. And so what we have tried to do at Peterson Sullivan, and what we did at my prior firm as well, is find employees who were 100% interested and dedicated to the new service line, whether that be hiring from the outside or transitioning from current roles. And so at Peterson Sullivan, as you mentioned the IT risk practice, during the initial launch of that practice, we educated the firm as to the why. Why are we doing this? What kind of services does the IT risk practice consist of right now? What are our goals? And then how are we going to ramp this practice up? And so we started with just a small handful of employees that were internal, they're prior auditors, that had a high interest in technology, in cybersecurity, and also that had high aptitude for learning new things, learning new areas, and just had a fantastic attitude. And so they had the soft skills piece that was necessary to really entrepreneurially be a builder of any organization, because it's the people that you need right from the start, not necessarily the really defined skill sets. Those can be learned.
So that's interesting that you actually found some people within the organization to start. I know you came to Peterson Sullivan to build this for them from scratch. And I think a lot of firms struggle with, do we build it internally? Do we buy it? Do we bring a U or make an acquisition to do this? What are your thoughts on building or buying?
There is no right answer. I think it depends on the firm. It depends on the market that the firm is in depends on the current firm leadership or the current firm employees. And it really depends on the firm's appetite for risk. Obviously, capital and the ability to build or buy is a key decision maker there. I think that both can work with the right support and strategy. With culture being at the forefront at PS, the decision to build was it was a well thought out decision. Could you grow faster by buying? Yeah, probably. But there are other implications with that process as well. And what we did at PS was really understanding, okay, so we started out by IT risk services and outsourced accounting service, which we're dubbing managed accounting, were really the two needs that our clients helped us identify that they're most interested in. And based on the skill sets needed to provide those levels of service, we determined that through a little bit of outside leadership acquisition, it was just those leaders that we were essentially buying, but the resources behind that we actually had in-house. And so we could transition folks from current roles into future roles within those new teams.
So did the people that you move on to your team from the beginning, are they now officially part of your team on an ongoing basis, or did they go back to where they came from?
They are all dedicated employees of the advisory practice now. Yeah.
Good. So there's something about it that they wanted to make their career path, along that path. So great. So I'm not asking you to provide anything you're not comfortable with, but can you talk to us a little bit about the value that your services actually provide the firm? We hear all the time that this is the higher profit margin work. Is that what you're experiencing?
This is an investment. So the key piece to understand is that this is especially when you take the build approach, it's a long-term approach for hitting those profit margins. You have a lot of, I guess, soft costs related to building out a practice, whether it be hiring, training, acquiring new clients. The cost of first-year engagements typically are much higher than recurring engagements. And so those are all, in the first few years, it has to be acknowledged that, yes, the opportunities for higher profit margin work do exist there, but there are investment costs up front in order to lay the groundwork to get there. Fortunately, we are seeing good payoffs there from a profit margin standpoint. I think even probably a more advantageous piece, though, is helping take the firm to a more holistic business solutions advisory practice than just simply a compliance shop. And so we're able to provide our current clients with higher, more valuable services. We're also able to take, for example, on our IT risk side, leading with services such as the SOC 2 process, SOC 2 examination. Those we're bringing a lot of new clients to the firm. And so once we're able to really establish relationships, develop trust with those clients, we're now selling more compliance-related services to them and other advisory services to them. And so it's really a whole ecosystem of the service solutions.
I love that. You hear all the time that these services will bring in new clients, but there's the fear that you can't cross-sell them, tax and accounting and audit. So I'm glad you guys are having success in that area. I know you guys have a marketing and sales team there at Peterson Sullivan. Did they have any role in helping you launch this and get it off the ground? If so, how did you work with them?
They have had an immense role in this entire process. A huge lesson learned over the past few years is that none of this will be successful. None of this meaning the build out of new practice areas will be successful unless every key stakeholder in the organization is really invested in the process. So partners, leadership team, and all employees really need to be invested and involved with the process. So we're fortunate as well at Peterson Sullivan, our marketing, our CMO is very much involved in the operations of the business as well, and the total growth of the business. And so as far as go-to-market strategy, product market fit, really the growth of a startup of a business, right up her alley. And so she's been involved with the build out of the practice from actually all these advisory practices from the start. And we all need to be in cahoots together as well. So as far as firm strategy and firm vision, if the firm's headed in this direction, is the build out of these advisory practices supporting where the firm wants to go? If no, then we're not going to have the monetary and really passionate investment by leaders to make it a success. If yes, and everyone's on board, we can grow a lot faster and more successfully through that approach. But the marketing, HR, partnership, everyone needs to be on board.
Okay, so what if there's a firm out there now that really hasn't gone down the path of advisory? You know, you look at, you know, their revenue breakout, it's all that tax, audit, accounting, those core services. They haven't taken any time to innovate. What do you think they need to do to make it happen? And do they need to do it now? What's the timing of it?
It should be done yesterday.
Right.
And there's really two things. One is collaboration with other folks in the industry. We still, to this day, several times a week, either have phone calls with other firms who are looking to get into the IT risk or outsourced accounting, CFO services space, or we're talking with firms who have really paved a path in areas that we want to get into. For example, specifically in the restaurant accounting or advisory services area, we have a hospitality niche that is quite successful at our firm. And as a way to provide more value to those clients, we have a lady who's leading the charge on a restaurant accounting advisory services at PS. Well, we know that there's other firms in the US that are already well down that path. So we've been tapping into their lessons learned and really trying to capitalize on those. Everyone that we chat with is extremely willing to share their story, share their experiences, with the caveat that what works at one firm in one market may not work the same or will not work the same at another firm in another market. And so from that perspective, look at your own firm as well. What kind of clients do you have? For those trusted relationships that you already have, chat with those clients. What are their business needs? What are the risks that are facing them? What are the opportunities that are facing them? And how can you help solve those? If it's internally, then can you start ramping up an area within the firm to help solve those solutions? If it's going to be the build or buy process, then start looking into that. But there's a lot of opportunities that I think are sitting right at our doorstep that we oftentimes miss.
I love that. You just gave away the secret of marketing, that I like to call the rocket science, and because it's not rocket science. But if you just listen to your market, they will tell you what they need, and you just have to be creative in how you help them come up with it. And you know, for many firms, that was stepping outside of the core services to bring on somebody like you to take the firm in a slightly different direction with some of its service lines. So, well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today, Nick. This has been fun. I think I've learned a lot. I really liked the concept of collaboration. I think so many people try to do it alone. And you said not only do you share, but you also reach out to others to learn from them. You know, a little bit of doing good for others will do good for you. And then, you know, I think advisory services, it's all about the profit margin in a lot of people's minds. And you really hit upon the fact that client retention and then new clients coming in that you can cross-sell additional services should be a hard part of the strategy. So definitely something for firms to think about.
Absolutely. It's a passion of ours at Peterson Sullivan and one of my own. So thoroughly enjoyed the conversation today, Katie.
Well, thank you. And this wraps up another episode of Amplify. Please watch for another episode again next month. And always remember to aim high.
Power up, listening, we're always aiming